Hey everybody, Mark from Rams Up here. I have another Rams fan rap session for you. This time we have, I always want to say Andy McCollum when I see your name. It's Nathan McCollum
Yep.
from Missouri. How's it going, Nathan?
Good. How are you?
Good. So, you someone told you that I had mentioned I wanted to talk to a Missouri Ram fan, and and you sent me an email. And in your email, you said you were a lifelong Ram fan. So I'm guessing that when the Rams were in St. Louis, that's about when you started to follow football. Is that the case?
Yeah. So I guess it all really started. My dad had this. It was a just a thrown together box of old like football cards that he had when he was little, from like the '60s, '70s. And we were living in Kentucky, so we either had like the Titans or the Rams were close. And then so my brother actually he is a Bengals fan. So every time I hear you talk about the Bengals, I kind of perk up and like your opinions on like the Bengals. Um, but then, yeah, just following them from there, just like looking at old cards like Jack Youngblood cards, like the Rams just looked cool. I think I fell in love with like the look. I hear you talk about like the uniform combo all the time. The uniforms, the Rams back in like the '70s, those were awesome. So I think I just fell in love with it back then, and then yeah, eventually figuring out about Kurt Warner, Marshall Falk, like all those are like kind of like my years when I came into like sports consciousness. So I guess I started off kind of good, but yeah.
But you're one of the younger guys I've had on this
Yeah.
segment. So were you a fan of the Rams while they're in Los Angeles, or was that a little bit before your time?
I think that was a little bit before, because yeah, like I said, I kind of came into it, and then like we started collecting football cards, like me and my brother did, and then so eventually I was just like, okay, yeah, I'll. The Rams just kind of became my team. It was just more out of yeah, like the uniform look, and because we like I said, growing up in Kentucky, we didn't have a chance to really go to like games or anything like that, so it was really just out of a just the look of them, the and then obviously the greatest show on turf kind of just drew me in even more. So yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people, for a lot of people, I think it's as much about the helmet as anything else. I
Right.
still think
Yeah.
I think the coolest helmets belong to the Rams and Vikings, probably. So, whereabouts do you live now? You anywhere near St. Louis?
Yeah, we're about probably 15 minutes from downtown.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we made a trip out there. I forget what year it was to see the Rams and Panthers. So, did it them moving back to LA didn't really have a factor, didn't factor in at all then, huh?
Nope, not at all. I heard one of your listeners. They said they would follow the Rams even if they played on the moon, and I couldn't agree more. I don't care where they play. It's the them moving. I think it was. When I came to games here, we got to see me and my dad would. We got to see Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, and tickets were $5. So it was at a point to where they weren't very good. So I understand it, but no, them moving didn't really have an effect on me. I've gone to see them play in Cincinnati, that Monday night game, and then I've seen them play in Dallas. So I've still got to see them play, but them moving to LA didn't. I didn't mind it.
So, how is it being surrounded by probably a lot of ex Ram fans? I'm guessing, right? There are probably some Ram fans and a lot of unhappy ex Ram fans.
You get your mixture of both. There's some people that are upset about it still, and then yeah, there's other people that the place that I work. It's dealing with the public, and I still see people come in. There was a what was it, 3 days ago? A guy came in with it was a Jalen Ramsey jersey. So
Oh,
still people still. There's still people that that rock the gear even in the off season. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's still your mix of both.
And Jalen never played in St. Louis either, so they've
Yeah.
obviously, kept
Right.
their allegiance to the Rams. Cool. Yeah. Your dad was a Rams fan before you? Is that what you said?
See, he was a Steelers fan back in like the 60s, 70s. So I got to learn a lot about like Jack Lambert and stuff like that, like the really good linebackers that they had. But it was him, and then my uncle was a Vikings fan. So I've got to go back. I think it was the last one that you did. You talked about all the Rams games from the 70s back then in the playoffs, and so I got to tease my uncle a little bit about those days. But yeah, no, he was a Steelers fan, but yeah, he just collected a whole bunch of like the old football cards from the 70s. So that's kind of how we got into it.
So, have you played any football yourself?
I have a little bit of high school.
Yeah, I know that part of the country, high school and college football is a pretty big deal.
Yep.
A lot bigger deal than it is out here. I mean, obviously it's still a popular sport, but people don't really live and breathe football, high school football, college football out here. If USC wins, if USC loses, just move on. It's not
Right.
that's just how it is. So, let me think here. Yeah, it's interesting that I when the Rams left for St. Louis, I think there was a large contingent of fans that bailed on them, or had maybe already started to bail on them. But there was quite a few fans that stuck with them, and then when they came back, it was obviously fantastic for a lot of longtime fans. But I think it's probably a different experience for St. Louis Ram fans because there was a greater feeling of abandonment, I think, when the Rams came back to LA. But I know there was a lot of bordering on nastiness between the LA and St. Louis Ram fans back in that time frame. But
Right.
hopefully we've all got past it by now.
Right. And I mean,
Um,
I think it's one of those to where it's like, I mean, they won a championship here, and now they've won a championship in that. Like, I don't feel like there's any. I mean, if it's your team, it's your team. I feel like
yeah.
like it's me. It doesn't matter what city you're in. I mean, I feel like, I mean, to an extent, but if you're a fan, you're a fan. I just can't give it up.
Yeah, I know how you feel. And I have to say one of my best Ram experiences was when we went to St. Louis, my son and I think he was 20 years old at the time. And, longtime Ram fans and living in the Southern California generally. And we came down the elevator on game day in the morning, to hit the breakfast buffet.
Right.
And those elevator doors open up, and it was just a sea of Ram jerseys. And that was a different experience for us. You don't see that out here. No matter where you are, if you go to a sports bar out here, you're going to see 20 different jerseys,
Yeah.
and which is good, which is fine. It's just the way it is. But it was really kind of cool walking, just everybody wearing Falk and Warner and Bruce jerseys, Torrey Holt. It was
Oh
pretty
yeah.
cool. And that's the one thing I think that St. Louis had on LA. It was it was a Rams town for the time they were there. They owned it, and kind of like the Chargers in San Diego, kind of a mistake that they made, I think, because they owned San Diego. I mean,
Hmm.
there's still sprinkling of fans from all over the country in San Diego, but not like LA. San Diego was a Charger town, but it kind of isn't anymore.
Right. Yeah, I was actually in the Marine Corps for 4 years, so being out in San Diego, close to San Diego, it was a big. I would say there's a lot of Chargers fans out there. So,
You're at Camp Pendleton, I'm guessing.
yep, correct.
Yeah, I've played golf on their course there a
Okay,
couple of
yeah,
times. Yeah, yeah.
very
And
cool.
actually, I don't share this very often, but I actually live in San Diego County,
Okay,
and on occasion, on a quiet, I don't know when it is. I think it's usually in the evening, maybe it's the morning. We can hear those the artillery.
oh yeah,
Yeah, and the little next door neighbor website, whatever the heck it's called, every time lights up. What is going on? Usually people that have just moved into the area. It's like you live
Right.
near a Marine base, and you're gonna hear that occasionally.
Yep.
Yeah, I've always wondered about when I drive out there. There's a little paintball area
Oh
as
yeah.
you go through the entry there, and I think I was with my son once, and I said that's probably one place if you're a novice paintballer you might want to avoid. Probably some
Probably, yeah.
pretty good outfits there.
Yeah.
Teach you a lesson. Hey, you ready to go through my 6 questions? My random, well, they're not really random anymore. 6 questions I'll throw at you to wrap things up here. Any other Ram stories you want to share with us before we move on to these 6 questions?
Um, no, nothing off the top of my head. No. Mm-mm.
I do. Well, I'll ask a question here about some of the stadiums you've been to, embedded in these 6 questions here.
Yeah.
Well, that's the first one. How many Ram games have you been to? It sounds like you've been to a lot in St. Louis.
Um, I would probably put the total probably probably 10. There's been a few that I mean, yeah, there was a lot in St. Louis because we lived in Springfield, Illinois, close to there. So it was about like an hour and a half drive to St. Louis. So we got to go, and like I said, when the Rams weren't very good during those St. Louis days. I mean, like I said, we got to see Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, some of the top name quarterbacks come through St. Louis. But then, yeah, I mean, I've seen them in, like I said, I've seen them in Dallas, up in Cincinnati. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I'd probably put it at about 10.
Oh, nice. And so you haven't been to SoFi yet?
Unfortunately, not. I really want to plan a trip out there one time just to go to a game, but no, I haven't got to go there yet.
Yeah, that's a you're talking about a little bit of a pricey weekend vacation.
Right,
So
right.
there's that. Okay, so who's your favorite? I'll ask you these 3 questions. I'll wrap them up together. Who your favorite Ram player of all time is? Who's the greatest Ram? And who is the one Ram that gets overlooked, maybe underappreciated, that even Ram fans maybe should recognize more?
So favorite player, man, that's a tough one. But if I had to just pick one, probably Marshall Falk. He was, uh, to me, he was the greatest thing that I'd ever seen. Like just the way he, I mean, ran the ball, but also caught it out of the backfield, and just, I mean, I I go on my lunch breaks. I just go back on YouTube, and there's like 15-minute videos of like all the like the old games and the breakdowns. And man, just to watch him run the ball was it was something special. I just there's just there was something different about the way he did it that just instantly was like, this guy he's something special. But then
Yeah,
also, I mean, Kurt Warner he's one of my top one. Just his whole story, he was the best. That guy could take. My dad always said that guy could take a shot but deliver the ball right on the money. So him too. But the greatest Ram of all time. Um, it's a tough one, but I think just with the sheer career, probably Aaron Donald. I know that's a bit of a newer like response, but just the way he changed the game for real, in the way defensive tackles play the game. Like he's unreal. And then most underappreciated. This might be a throwout, but I'd say like Adam Archuleta. He was playing safety. I really enjoyed his play. I've actually got to talk to him a little bit, like on Twitter. He like responded to me one time. Him and like some of that D line too, like Grant Wistrom. Those underappreciated D tackles, man. Those guys were back in the Jeff Scanina. Those guys were difference makers, and I don't think they get a lot of love. But there are names that I think really did help them in the early 2000s.
Yeah, I'll comment on your guys here. Well, first of all, Marshall Faulk and the greatest show on turf. If there was one guy that was probably most crucial to their success on offense, it had to be him, right?
Oh yeah,
You got Holt and Bruce, and I love both of them,
yeah,
and Kurt Warner, obviously. But without Falk, I'm not sure they would have been the greatest show on turf.
right.
Probably not. And Aaron Donald, I agree with you. Just the separation between him and other guys at that position, it's just crazy. He is just so
Right.
good. And Archuleta, yeah, I forget about him. And I don't know if you remember, when he was before that draft, he was quite the viral sensation for
Yeah.
his time with his workout videos.
Oh yeah.
And I think he's still, if I'm not mistaken, I think he still has a gym, a business centered around that workout
Hmm.
regimen. So yeah, he was a really good player too. And man, you're pulling some names out of the hat on the
Right.
defensive line there. But that's yeah. And I have to ask you while we're on the subject. I meant to ask you before. So you had to be a fan of Andy McCollum, no?
Oh yeah.
The
Oh
spelling
yeah.
is different. The spelling is different though.
Just a tad different. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
everybody seems to spell it with that UM at the end, and then yeah, mine is just OM. But yeah.
yeah. I was almost going to call you Andy just to get the McCollum on the brain. So I always ask who your second team is, and I'm going to take a guess here. You're from Missouri, originally from Kentucky, and it could be college football, any sport. And I'm wondering, is it Kentucky basketball by any chance?
It is not. So my stepsister actually, we moved her into UK. She went to nursing there, so I got to be on the campus. It's a really nice campus. But no, actually, so my dad went to Purdue back in graduating in '84, and I have been to more Purdue sporting events than I think any other sport combined. And so just I think, yeah, if I had to pick one team, that's probably my second. But I mean, there's tons. I mean, like I follow the Bengals because of my brother. Um, but in hockey, the Blackhawks. But if I had to pick one, yeah, it'd probably be the Boilermakers.
Yeah, I know the Rams have drafted some guys out of Purdue over the years. I can't think of who they are right now,
The
but
one most recent that won a Super Bowl with them, Bryson Hopkins, the
oh,
tight end.
okay,
Yeah,
right,
but he's no
yeah,
longer with them. But yeah.
yeah. And Purdue has a very highly uh, highly respected academic program there. I
Mhm.
think they're especially engineering, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
It's where one of those schools where the smart people go.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. Very good school. Let's see. So what's your favorite Ram moment of all time? It could be a game you were at, a player you met, uh, just a great play. I could probably take a guess on this one too, but I'll let you roll with it.
Yeah, man, that's a tough one because I don't. I want to say the tackle. Obviously, the tackle is one of the best Ram play. I wasn't really in sports consciousness yet for that, so I don't think I can claim that one. But the one for me, probably the Cooper Cup touchdown against Eli Apple. That was probably like to secure that catch was it pretty. I think it definitely I think got him MVP for that for making that play. So in my sports consciousness, I'll give it that. But I mean, like I said, there's the tackle, there's Isaac Bruce's touchdown. I mean, there's the Ricky Prohl catch. I mean, there's tons of other moments. I think I'm a little too I think I'm a little too young to claim them, so I'm trying to keep it in my era. So I'll keep it. Yeah, I'll give it Cup's touchdown.
Well, I mean that's a valid play. I mean that was
Yeah,
a big time play. And what a run that Cooper Cup had. He had the big catch against the 49ers.
Yep.
And then he had obviously the big catch against the Bucks to set up the game-winning field goal.
I was
And
gonna
then
say that
that
was
one,
another one. I was
yeah,
out at
and
Buffalo Wild Wings for that one, and surprisingly, I lived in Texas for 5 years, so I was out there in Texas. Um, and even being there, the whole place went nuts.
oh,
I don't know if it
nice.
was just everybody rooting against Brady or what, but yeah, the whole place went nuts. That was a great. That was
Yeah,
great.
I think, that's one thing about especially the Rams wide receivers. Talk about likable guys over the years between
Right.
Bruce, Holt, Puka, Cooper Cup, even Flipper and Henry Ellard, just
Hmm.
all really stand up guys. And I don't know if you heard this. I did not know this until a couple of weeks ago. I saw a little blurb, an interview with Cooper Cup. It might have been on a podcast, might have been on his own podcast. I'm not even sure where. He said it's the only time in his career where he told Matthew Stafford, "Get me the ball." And not necessarily for that play, but down the stretch there.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, and he says it's not really my thing, but that's the one time I did it. So that's kind of cool. And so, how do you feel about this year?
I'm pretty optimistic. I mean, I'm trying to be a realistic fan. I mean, I get there's going to be a little bit of homerism in every like kind of pick that I make, but I'm optimistic. I mean, other people, other guests you've had on have said, I mean, the loss to AD is big, but I also think they did pretty well in the draft to kind of compensate for that. The injuries on the offensive line have me kind of worried. The offensive line as a whole kind of has me a little worried, but I mean, I'm optimistic. I definitely it's going to be tough, I think, to get around San Francisco. I mean, I think they're still kind of their window is still open, and I hate to admit it because I'm not a big 49ers fan. But I don't. I want to say that the Rams can top them in the division, but I don't think so. I still think we'll finish second. I still think we'll be competitive, but I think San Francisco is still a little too good. But I'm definitely optimistic. I mean, I don't think 11 wins is out of the question. I mean, I think this is kind of staple for a lot of teams, but if they can just stay healthy, they'll they'll top 11. But I think 11 is kind of where I'm sitting at, so I'm pretty optimistic.
That's kind of how I feel. I don't disagree with anything you said. I think the 49ers roster is just so solid from top to bottom, and great coaching, great players. Yeah,
Right,
they should win the division. I guess my hope is that maybe they have a little bit of a hangover from what happened last year,
right.
and next year is going to be a problem for them with their salary cap. I'm sure they'll figure it out, but I'd expect a little bit of a drop off next year.
Yeah,
But
that's why
yeah,
I think their Super Bowl window it's still open, but I think it's closing pretty fast with, like you said, like as all those contracts coming up. I think their window's closing, but I think they're still competitive.
yeah, they're basically all in this year, and you got to give them credit because when the Rams went all in, it was via trades and such, and the 49ers are really, except for McCaffrey, a couple other guys, Trent Williams, they've drafted a lot of their studs, and I think the problem with the Rams is this Sunday night game. It's a tough way to start the season.
Right,
A team with a really good offensive line, a very good team at in their stadium, and it's going to be crazy loud there. But
right,
hey, in my opinion, overall, I think whether the Rams win or lose in Detroit, if they lose in Detroit, they'll be okay. Um, they'll rack up some wins. They'll go on a little run at some point in the season.
right,
But it's kind of when you go on the road against a good team, it's always a loss is not the end of the world when you're on the road against a good team. You're
right,
basically trying to steal a win,
right.
and if they lose, they'll be okay. So it's not the end of the world. I know a lot of Ram fans that I talk to. I know Ian and Paul are just really stressed and want this win so bad. It's just one game, though. You know,
Yeah, right.
regardless of the outcome, Rams will be okay. But I'm with you. Somewhere around 11 wins, and I think they'll be a playoff team.
Yeah, right.
Hey Nathan, it's been good stuff. I'm glad to get
Yeah.
someone from the younger generation on here
Yeah.
to
Oh, yeah.
talk a different perspective, and from Missouri. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And see if we can knock off some additional states. This is a really fun segment. I love doing these.
Yeah. These are awesome. I love, yeah. Like I said, I kept hearing it I think I heard it for like 3-1 saying that you were looking for somebody from Missouri. And I was like, man, maybe he'll have me on, maybe not. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to ask him. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I
because it's just from being a fan here, like I said, there's still love for the team. I see it. Like I said, I mean, people come in and they're still wearing Rams gear and stuff. So St. Louis is not lost. We're still holding down the fandom here. It hasn't died.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And I just figured, it might be hard finding a Ram fan in Rhode Island and
Right,
Montana and such, but I got to be able to find one in Missouri. So
right.
thanks for coming through for us. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Nathan, thanks a lot out here.